Wow. Well, thank you for that. Now, we have a different way of looking at things around here. Instead of saying, oh, it must be God's will, we set an intention and pay close attention to what follows and discover that maybe the way things unfolded corresponds to our intention. So, the funny thing is that what I plan to share with you this morning is all about the how-to with a lot of humor. And it fits perfectly after what you said. So there you go. So, yeah. So this guy, Ernest Holmes, was the founder of the Science of Mind and Spirit. And I think a couple of weeks ago I told you the original textbook was written in 1926, and I highly recommend getting it. It's got this whole section on the paranormal, which is not in the other one. So I was thinking about that the other day as I was talking to my sister about something that's coming up in town. During the turn of the century, there were all these people traveling around doing all this cool stuff, thinking in new ways, interpreting ancient teachings in new ways. They called it the New Thought movement, and they were just traveling all over, doing all kinds of interesting things, allowing themselves to do what we're free to do in this country that was founded on that kind of freedom, to explore things in a new way and see what happens. So about the way it works, what I had to share a little bit from Ernest Holmes was this. Our thought and emotion is the use that we make, consciously or unconsciously, of this original creative thing that is the cause of everything. That power which appears to bind us is the only one in the universe which will free us. We can believe in the very thing we wish to be free of, and we will create more of it. We suffer not because suffering is imposed upon us, but because we are ignorant of our true nature, which is that our thoughts are creative. As high as we can make our mark in mind and spirit, so shall it be in its outward manifestation in our material world. We must learn to believe. And so those are words that I had set aside from Ernest Holmes. And the rest is so funny I'm going to hold on to this because I like to walk. From me, is that I thought about, okay, well, usually you get to the point when you're in a class and you say, oh, well, that's really nice, but what do I do with it? How does it apply to my life? How can I use it in my own life? And we often ask those questions when we're in a class or something. So it comes down to, well, how do you know what to do with a belief? Where do you find them? Where do they hang out? How do they behave? And what came out of that was very funny. First of all, I thought, well, if you're going to study anything, you find out where it lives. And then you might go deeper and find out how it's created. And then you might watch how it's raised and how it lives. And then you learn enough about it so that whether you're hunting it or you'd like to get to know it better or wherever you want to go with whichever metaphor, that you know more about it, and that enables you to understand it better and use it consciously or be in conscious relationship with it. Well, the funny thing is that this exploration of how beliefs are conceived and born and raised and how they live and where they live started to look very much like a little talk on family planning. That if you don't want this belief to be conceived and to be born and to grow up and to live and become something, then you need to know how it's created in the first place and prevent it or plan on it depending on which one it is. So that spun into another idea, which is that beliefs, where they hang out, where they live, are in the same neighborhood as the thing itself. So what happens is, there's this neighborhood, it's called your subjective or your subconscious mind, by the way, and it's a really nice neighborhood. It is now. Right, okay. If it isn't, keep coming. Okay, so there's this neighborhood where the thing itself hangs out, And what it does is it responds to everything by organizing the stuff of the universe in the same form as what? As your belief. So do you want to let just any old belief into that neighborhood? You may have up until now because you didn't realize you had a choice. You didn't know how they were conceived. You didn't know how they were born. You didn't know how they were created. You didn't know how much power they had. What happens is the belief moves into the neighborhood of your subconscious mind, and guess what? Well, that's where that thing hangs out. It is constantly responding to and creating according to those beliefs. So maybe think of a condo association, and some of us live in those gated communities where you drive up to the gate, and if you don't know the code, you can't get in. And we may have had to fill out an application to have the privilege of getting the code and living there. And okay, so then we get into gentrification and somewhere where I don't want to go. Let's say these are all good motives, our reason for cleaning up our little neighborhood. Because every one of those beliefs is creative. So, what if we put a screening process in place? What if we say, okay, I think I'm beginning to understand how beliefs are created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things. I'm going to set up some kind of a structure that has something to do with them being created in the first place, right? Because we really can't keep, the rest of the world outside the gate, as it were. We're really all one. So we really want to clean them up in our neighborhood as well as throughout. We're all one because we have an individual use of that subjective, that subconscious, and we have what's called the collective, which means we're connected. And there's nothing that we can do about that. As we grow, it all grows. As we lift up, it all lifts up. So we're going to clean up our own neighborhood, and we're also going to clean up the world by doing what? By understanding how beliefs are created. And then when they move into the neighborhood of our subjective mind and sit right down next to that thing which is always responding and creating, something different is going to happen. Because guess what? They're inseparable. It can't be stopped. It can't be helped. So how beliefs are created is very interesting. An idea pops out of where? Out of that no-thingness, that no-thingness. And what happens is that idea is then caught by us, and we have a thought about it. If you've ever looked at that whole concept, there's a point that is pre-verbal, that is pre-thought, that is no thing. But that idea then becomes a thought. And the thought is followed by a feeling. And the feeling is followed by an emotion. And then emotion sets what in motion? The stuff of the universe, that responsiveness, that creative force. And things start to show up in our lives as our circumstances. What happens next is that we decide what it means. We say, oh, that's of thus and such. And we have to figure out what we're going to call it so we can file it and move along, right? So we call it something and we file it and we move along. Well, guess what? A lot of us do this unconsciously. We call it something, we file it, we move along, and we didn't even realize we did that. It's like a habit. So you might have called this bunk, and you might have called that junk, and you might have called him good, and you might have called her bad, and you put them all in your filing system, which is your memory. And guess what those are? All of your memories are two things. They're your beliefs, because they're what you've decided to make things mean, and they're creative. Because they're in that neighborhood. So, again, to step back and say, well, gee, so my power to determine what I believe and what I create and how my life shows up really is at that gateway, what I let in the neighborhood of my subjective mind. And the way to do that is to catch things when we're thinking. Oh boy, I'll tell you, I will admit that it is more challenging once you're in the emotional, of whatever. I've already decided that this will work. Unconsciously, I've already assumed this is what's going on. And then I'm not just feeling a little bit, I'm in an emotional vortex of some sort. And then I got to try to wake up, break the cycle, say, wait a minute. That's like in Hollywood, when you get the slap across the face, somebody's just lost it, and so they bring it back to their senses. Whatever you have to do for yourself to break that cycle and say, wait a minute, is this true? You can still do it. It's easier in the earlier stages, and it can be done later on down the line. Break the cycle. You can break the cycle by taking a walk, by cleaning the bathroom, by, let's say, baking a cake. I'm telling you what, I will do things like clean or take a walk or disengage somehow in order to break that cycle for a moment and ask myself, is this really how I want this to go down? Because it goes into your history books, and because it hangs out in your creative neighborhood, it becomes what you experience next. And that's really wonderful when you like what you're experiencing, but if you don't, it would be really great to redo that belief, pull it out of the file, call it something better, and then put it back and let it hang out and keep recreating more of that for you. So that's my speedy little version of a reflection that I wanted to share with you. And what we're going to do is a little different this morning, given the unfolding of air and particles and something. I'd like you to take a moment with me and move back into, we're going to do an affirmation. We're going to do a little affirmation. We're going to sing part of a song, and then I'm going to do a spiritual mind treatment. That funny thing that sounds like you should have a wired cap on. We also call it affirmative prayer. It is one way to practice claiming what you will believe and what you will make things mean and what you'll allow in your neighborhood and what will you be manifesting in your daily life. So if you close your eyes with me, I just want you to say this affirmation 3 times, and then we'll open our eyes and we're going to sing this song together. My mind is poised in peace and beauty. Say it with me. My mind is poised in peace and beauty. One more time. My mind is poised in peace and beauty. It's that simple. You can open your eyes now. And Judith, thank you for joining us this morning. If you know this, I invite you to sing along. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful and capable. I'll be loves us just the way we are, because Spirit is love and has made each and every one of us out of itself in His image and in its likeness, so it could be no other way. And I recognize and know this truth, and in doing so, I make room for it as my experience and as yours, because it is how I know myself, it is how I know you. And because this is so, I know that it shows up as our experience, as our thinking, as our feeling, as our emoting, as our being, as our choosing, as our speaking, as our experiencing. I know that it builds powerful beliefs in full support of the greatest manifestation of who and what we can be as who we are. In gratitude for that, I simply release my word. I know that it is already done. And together we say, and so it is. I love